So he says, so remember again, we're in the middle of discussing this ongoing, in this Perek Sheni, this ongoing topic of Yisurim, of suffering, of difficulty, adversity, and understanding that the Mechaber is trying to teach us that everything that happens to us is a way of the Ribono Shel Olam communicating with us, trying to teach us some kind of lesson, trying to advance some type of idea, some type of ideal. When we use the word Yisurim in a very general way, although Yisurim normally translates as suffering, we understand it really to refer to any form of adversity, any form of difficulty, recognizing that nothing is haphazard, everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, by definition, there's a message embedded in everything. Our job is to try to figure out what the message is. So he says, there is another category of suffering called suffering of love. Or I should say suffering, that is a manifestation of divine love. So this is the type of suffering brought upon the righteous in order to increase their reward. Meaning the idea is that everyone has some level of chait, everyone has some level of misdeed. Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu will go ahead and visit Yisurim Shel Ava, which is the manifestation of love on the tzaddikim, in order to intensify their reward in the world to come. In Olam Haba, Kimo Shemuva, remember Sagas Brachas, Imroa Adam Shi Yisurim Ba'in Alav. If a person sees that he is beset by suffering or difficulty, Yifash Sheish Lo Asaf. So we'll say the first approach is person has to go ahead and contemplate his actions. Shnei Amar, literally search out his actions. Shnei Amar, nach besad rachinu v'nachkora v'nashuva al Hashem. Literally, we will search out our ways and we will contemplate and we will return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Pishvei shalom matzah. What happens if a person introspects and they don't find anything wrong? Right? What a bracha. Who could imagine reaching such a state like that? I introspect and I find, thank God, everything is in perfect order. So therefore, I'm sorry?
Ask your wife.
Ask your wife, right? Good. And so the shayla, so what do I do next? Yitle v'bittul Torah. Then perhaps, again, there's an issue of bittul Torah. Or maybe even if I haven't committed any kind of averus, there's still some element of bittul Torah, which I'm struggling with. Shneimar, Ashya Gera Sherti Asreno Ka, Umisara Schatz Lamdeno, page Kof Yotes. Let's say a person introspects and a person, I can't find any averus, any negative actions. I'm not mevatel Torah, meaning I take advantage of my learning opportunities. So what do I ascribe the difficulties to? Vim talav v'lo matzah bi'adua she'isurim shel ahavai shene'emar es hasher yehav Hashem yochiach. So if a person introspects and a person can't find any kind of shortcoming or difficulty to which to attribute the present suffering, the present difficulties and adversity, then the Mechaber says it could just be that it's Yisurim Shel Ava. It could just be that it's just the type of suffering, the type of adversity that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is visiting upon me as a manifestation of divine love in an effort to amplify my reward. First paragraph, page Kuf Yotes. I'm sorry?
Is it a dangerous assumption?
It is a very dangerous assumption. And as a person has to be exceptionally honest in the introspective process. 100%. Perusho, shekasher rotza bori lahosif latzadik schar. Asai who knows no yisurim. Now what does this mean? It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to amplify the schar of the tzaddik, and therefore he gives him suffering. As no self latzadik king asachar al yisurim atzmam. Vein schar al ha'avoda she'oved es Hashem itoch yisurim. Ula avoda zu yesh erech rav biyoser. So the idea is, what does it mean that there's Yisurim Shel Ava that give a person schar? The idea is that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu visits difficulty upon the tzaddik, and the tzaddik still continues to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that avoda has even greater reward associated with it, because again, it has more friction. Remember, like anything else in life, the more friction and the more difficulty, the greater the reward for the particular event. That's the lefum tsara agra. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu visits Yisur upon the tzaddik, but he still continues to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. By definition, there's more schar for that avoda. Memela Yisurim elu yachal tzaddik bekalus l'salka me'alav. The part says the mechaber Yisurim shel ava, because they are solely and wholly for the benefit of the tzaddik, and The tzaddik has done nothing wrong. No chait. The tzaddik can also choose to what? To remove these yisurim shalava. Choose to remove it because these yisurim are only coming to go ahead and intensify the tzaddik's schar. Therefore, the tzaddik has the discretion to be able to say, no, thank you. I don't want this anymore. So remember again what he's referring to here. The Gemara Masechtas Brachos brings down a number of stories like this, of where again there were certain Tanaim who were suffering. The Talmidim come and essentially they say, Rebbe, what did you do to deserve this suffering? The tzaddik says, I've introspected, I've done nothing. The Talmidim or the Chaverim will come to say, okay, it must be Yisurim Shel Ava. And you have examples of great people saying, no, thank you. It's okay, I appreciate it's the thought that counts. I understand you want to give me more schar. I'm not interested. I'd rather deal without the suffering and without the schar than to go ahead and deal with the suffering with the schar. So this is concept lohim v'lo scharam, and because ultimately again this is yisurim shel ava. Therefore, at the end of the day, the tzaddik has the discretion to say no, thank you. Look at the next section.
He's missing a big category, and that is the tzaddik suffers for the door.
So that's correct. He's talking now just personally the individual suffering. He's not talking about any kind of collective suffering, which I understand is a very complicated concept in and of itself. Because although we believe that in a different kind of way, not to be confused with any kind of Christian motifs of the suffering servant or someone dying to atone for everyone else. So he piece that he's not dealing with right now. So he says, and say this addresses your point. Says the Mechaber, but just know, most of us don't have to worry about this category of Yisurim. Right? You don't have to worry about the Yisurim Shal Ahava. He says, Lo lekat tzadikim, v'lahavdil gam lo lekat rishoyim. Now here's the good news, Baruch Hashem. Although on one hand, so we may not belong to the category of the absolutely righteous. Baruch Hashem, we also don't belong to the Kat Rishon. We also don't belong to the category of the wicked. Kimosh Amru Chazal, Ein biyadenu lo mishavas harishayim, va'af lo miyisuri hatzadikim. As the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, in our hands we do not find the tranquility of the wicked, nor do we find the suffering of the righteous. The idea being that Dardiana was trying to say is that very often we find ourselves in the category of Beinonim, in the category of the middle of the road. We're not chas v'shalom v'shayim, but also not necessarily yet on the category, on the level of tzaddik. V'chein, b'chol ha'yisurim ha'boim ala adam tzarich l'das, sheyesh biyada ovam, shebatyo ba'u lo ha'yisurim. Therefore, I will say it's important for us to know the following: that when we find ourselves in the midst of yisurim, in the midst of difficulties and challenge, there's a cause. There's a reason for it. Now, again, I can't say enough, but I'll say it again, that when he speaks out this idea of ein yisurim below chet, there's no such thing as suffering or adversity without. So if something bad happens, it means that it's the result of an avon. Let's be clear on something. Avon or chet doesn't necessarily mean sin. The point that when Chazal say ein yisurim below chet, there's no suffering without sin. What Chazal are trying to say is that there's no such thing as unpurposeful suffering. That every single time a person undergoes a setback or a difficulty or some type of adversity, it's purposeful. It doesn't necessarily mean it's because I've committed an avera, but what it means is it's not random. It's there for some purpose. Chodesh Baruch Hu is trying to teach me, to tell me, to guide me in some way. He goes on, I have to ask myself, not just simply what sin did I do that caused this, but what is Chodesh Baruch Hu trying to teach me? What is the embedded message here? What is the lesson? What is the message that Chodesh Baruch Hu is trying to convey? Ki ein yisurim lo avon ve'aseh zos al yidei she'izbonin be'eza ofen nenash shumida kineged mida la'pagam shabagam. So also we spoke about this last week. That very often when the Rebbe Shalom visits circumstances upon me, so again it's midah kineged midah. There's a reciprocity. Therefore, sometimes a person is able to see what is wrong within life through the nature of the events that I can remember again We saw the exchange between the Arizal and Reb Chaim Vital about Takif and Kasif. Takif and Kasif, right? And Halavai, we should be have the Arizal's problems, right? That the Arizal did not, Reb Chaim Vital did not go ahead and bench immediately after my Machronim, the Takif, the Kasif, the pain in the shoulder. I'm going to have to go over it again. But the idea being that there's often a Mita connected Mita. There's often a reciprocity. If I look at what it is that's happening with me and what it is that's going wrong, and I try to figure out, well, how could this be reciprocal? What could be in a state of disrepair in my life that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to send me a message? He goes on, he says, I love you, so again, my goal is then to try to figure out, and again, I will say, I want to be clear, again, I can't say enough, which is, we're not Nevi'im. So it's not always easy to figure out what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to convey to me or what the message is. But just because I can't be 1,000% sure, it doesn't mean I don't try. I try to the best of my ability to figure out what is the divine message, what is broken, what's wrong, what needs to be addressed. Goes on, he says, "V'kabel al atzmo lahaba lo lashuv od l'suro ubevadai shikabel." And again, if I'm able to figure out what exactly is the particular state of disrepair, I try to be makabel upon myself not to do this again. I try to be makabel upon myself to fix that which is broken, and hopefully in that merit of that Kabbalah, I'm able to go ahead and take away those things that are causing me pain. Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo rotze v'onesh. We'll say this is an incredibly important yisod. The Ribono Shel Olam does not want to punish. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not a punishing God. Now, the Ribono Shel Olam is a just God. As such, there are repercussions for every single thing we do. But the Ribono Shel Olam does not sit around waiting to punish us, waiting to go ahead and literally patch us. Rather, Shadam Yisora. All that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us is to lead meaningful and impactful lives. And he doesn't want us to going through life in a state of slumber. V'yashov b'tshuva, v'yiskel Yeshua, kimo shenemar, ki lo chafetz Hashem b'mos hameis, midarachav, v'chayav, v'hayisurim bo, page kuf chaf, v'hayisurim bohu alav, ach v'rak b'shvil lo'ororo, v'fash v'asot tshuva, v'lo ka'onash okim v'kama chaliva. And I will say this last line, which is sometimes the most difficult line to actually accept and spiritually ingest, which is the Ribono Shel Olam does not want to punish. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's point over here is not when punitive. Meaning, I want to be clear. Even let's say a person is suffering because of averos that they have done. So even though you could kind of the Yisurin is a punishment. It's true, it's a punishment, but on both sides, the Ribono Shel Olam does not engage in punitive punishment. He engages in rehabilitative, cathartic punishment. The idea ultimately is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be better. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to wake up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to slumber. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you have so much to offer, you have so much to be, you have so much self-actualization that you're capable of. Don't waste your time. Don't sleep away your life. Don't go through life in a state of slumber. So sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu visits these circumstances a wake-up call. And yes, sometimes the wake-up call are very dramatic. And sometimes the wake-up calls are exceptionally overwhelming. But just to understand the point of those wake-up calls, well, not welcome calls, but wake-up calls, is not because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like us. Not because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is angry at us. Just the opposite. Because the Ribono Shel Olam loves us so much, all he wants us to do is perform on all cylinders. And sometimes when I'm not getting that message myself, he sends me a little bit of the turbulent wake-up call. But the point of that is to introspect, is to analyze, to take stock of life, to figure out where I'm misfiring a little bit, what exactly is not working, and then to be makabel ultimately to fix it. All right, so we'll stop over here. We'll pick up page Kuf Chaf in Meretz Hashem tomorrow.
Yeah, the room is a lot of people now. Got it. Thanks. The video did not work yesterday. The live stream. Nope. No, it's YouTube now. I see. Yeah. I don't know.
You know what? I realized also changes people's phones are on.
I can see it.
It's not a bad thing. Everyone can turn off their volume.
All right, Shabbos, good morning. Let's begin. So our shir is dedicated this week by Ira Grossman and family, who Ira is in the middle of sitting shiva for his mother, Frida Grossman, Freda Bas Shmuel Zichron Livracha. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an aliyah and the family in Nechama. We also dedicate the learning of Ilui Nishmas Eliezer ben Plonamos in the hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an aliyah and the family in Nechama. Also, just a reminder that the Shiva meeting is at the Grossman home this morning at 645, 35027 Mile Lane. If you could help to make that meeting, it would be appreciated as well. All right, so let's begin. So we are picking up, today's daf is test 9. We are picking up the bottom of Ches Amud Beis, 8b. Ravash Yamar. So we'll say, remember again, we're trying to figure out the machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. Specifically, again, in terms of a Motzi Shemra Beis. So remember again, Motzi Shemra, case a man and woman get married, husband accuses his wife of not being a basula. How many people do you need in order to adjudicate this particular case? Rabbi Meir holds that you only need a beis din of 3. The Rabbanan hold that you need a beis din of 23. So remember, according to Rabbi Meir, you need a beis din of 3. Now we're trying to figure out what the nature of the machlokes is. We've had already about 4 or 5 different approaches, and we've stumbled upon a number of yesodistic ideas. What's also very much at play over here is an underlying issue that Motzi Shemer can manifest itself in one of 2 ways. It could be a dinei mamanis or it could be a dinei nefashis. It could be dinei mamanis in that, as you saw at the Rashi in the end of Ches Amud Aleph, when a husband makes this claim, he's automatically believed to deprive his wife of a ksuva, because again, there's almost like a mali l'shaker. There's an idea that why would he lie after having invested so much resources in making of the wedding? That it could be a dinei mamanis. Dinei mamanis in that if it turns out that the husband is lying, so the father of the wife has the ability to collect a penalty payment of 100 shekel from the husband, but it could also be dinei nefashos, because in the event that the husband is correct and she committed, remember again, all he's saying is she wasn't the basula. He's not making necessarily any other supporting claims about ultimately why she's not a basula. All he's saying is that she's not a basula. If it turns out that witnesses then show up and say she committed adultery sometime during Erusin, then it becomes a dinei nefashos case. So we're trying to figure out what is at the core of the machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan. So let's pick up last few words on Ches Amud Beis. Ravashi says, what's the machlokes? We'll say this is all interesting, different interpretations. As we the bulk of today's daf, different interpretations of figuring out what is the machlokes. Kigon, listen to this. The asru be malchus below asru be ktala. So we'll say, interestingly enough, the Gemara says, what's the case where Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan disagree? They argue in a case where the woman was given hasra, but she was only given hasra for malchus, for lashes, but not given hasra for misa. Look at Rashi for just a moment. The asru malchus la asru biktala, the havande lo miktala, ela loka, the ein locha misas based in shel ne'emar ba lav, the kasavar lav shiniti masharas misas based in lokin alav, ki asru ba malchus for lokatelas. Well, so the case over here is witnesses see her about to commit adultery and they warn her. But the hasra, instead of saying if you do this you're chayiv misa, the hasra that they gave her was for malchus, was for lashes. Now we'll say, now you'll say to yourself, hasra. So it's not a totally wrong hasra, and that's what Rashi's pointing out over here. It's not a totally wrong hasra because remember again, every lav on a technical level carries with it an issue of malchus. Now, under normal circumstances, the person is getting a misas based in, they're not getting malchus. But the point over here is she got hasra for a lav, but didn't get hasra for the misa. So vakamiflagi bepluta Rabbi Shmuel v'Rabbanan. And ultimately, again, the machlokes over here is the machlokes Rabbi Shmuel l'Rabbanan. This nan makus b'shlosha. I will say that again, that a basin who administers malchus, all you need is a basin of 3. And because Rabbi Shmuel says that you require a basin of 23. Now, I will say, we'll see in tomorrow's daf what that machlokes is. But again, the Gemara is suggesting over here that the machlokes Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanon is really focused on a very specific case where the woman received hasra before she was about to commit adultery, but instead of getting hasra for misa, she got hasra for malchus. And the machlokes over here is how many people do you need for a beis din of malchus? Rabbi Meir is saying 3. Rabbi Meir is saying 3 according to Rabbi Shmuel, and ultimately again the Rabbanon saying like Rabbi. Sorry, I said that wrong. The Rabbanon saying 3, and Rabbi Meir like Rabbi Shmuel who holds 23. Fine. Ravina Amar, we'll say another interpretation of the machlokes. Ravina Amar, kigon shenimtza echad min ha'id karov apostle. Oh, we'll say now we're going to come to a very interesting case. The Gemara now suggests that the machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanon is in a very specific case of where, again, there were witnesses, and Rashi says over here, echad min ha'idim, vayusham shlosha o arba shechola edus l'skayim b'shar. Let's say again, I'll say there are 3 witnesses who show up. And the 3 witnesses claim that they witnessed the woman commit adultery. So the husband accuses her of not being a basula. Witnesses come forward that, in fact, she committed adultery. And then it turns out that what? One of the witnesses is a karov or apostle. And I will say, we're setting up this case over here. Let's say to keep it easy, there are 3 witnesses who come forward. One of them are found to be a karov, a relative. I will say now, krovim also, we'll get into the discussion about how closely related you have to be to someone in order for them to be a karov and pasula edus. So we take this, for example, to contemporarily to an extreme in edus. Let's say for our purposes, by edus, we really try to use someone who's not related to you in any way, shape, or form, even by marriage. We'll see ultimately again what the halacha dictates. But again, for our purposes today, 3 witnesses come forward, all claiming that she committed adultery. It turns out that one of them is a karov, one of them is or to any of the involved parties, or a puzzle, or just for whatever reason the person is invalid. They're a gambler, right? They're a ganav, whatever it might be. So the Gemara says, now what happens? So here's the interesting part about this case. So because you have 3, even though one became invalid, you're still left with, I know it's early, but you're still left with 2. Right? At the end of the day, again, you still have a kosher testimonial unit. So the shayla is, what does the invalidation of one do to the remainder of the testimonial unit? Become inflagi, but plugta Rabbi Yossi v'Rebbe. Again, this is the machlokes between Rabbi Yossi and Rebbe. Aliba Rabbi Akiva, Disnan, Rabbi Akiva Omer, Lo Bashlishi Ela Lahachmir Alav, La'asos Dino Kiyotze Be'elu. So we'll say, listen to this. So the machlokes over here is in the shita of Rabbi Akiva, because what does Rabbi Akiva say? Lo Bashlishi. I will say, what is Rabbi Akiva referring to? Bless you. Take a look at Rashi. Lo Bashlishi. Demimashma shene'emar apish nayim edim yakum kol shekim shlosha lama ne'emar o shlosha edim. So most remember again the pasuk says that apish nayim edim o shlosha edim yumas hames. Right, based on the testimony of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses, the person will be put to death. So the obvious kasha is, if you're telling me that edus works with 2 witnesses, so why do you have to say 3? So Rashi says, "Koshkin shlosha, lama nemar o shlosha." The money have to say o shlosha. Ela lahachmir alav litin chomer be'edei sheker. Sharvo says, it says Rabbi Akiva, it's to come to give you a stringency by edei sheker. Sheshlishi zeh afa pishlo haya zenidon al piv lemisa shari b'shtayim sheidu tchila nami haya nidon afilu hachi asa kasav as dino. Kiyotse be'elu shem huzmu yehareg av shlishu mipnei shenitbal la'over. Supposed to listen to this. So Rabbi Akiva says, remember, pasuk is already saying api shnayim edim o shlosha edim. If you're telling me that testimony works at 2 edim, why do you have to say 3? So Rabbi Akiva says it comes to teach you that what? That the 3rd is considered to be a bona fide part of the testimonial unit. Why? What's the havamina? So the havamina is like this. Let's say it turns out, we're going to get into this in a little bit. It turns out that 3 witnesses come forward to claim that Reuven killed Shimon. Just keep a simple case. Reuven killed Shimon. And then it turns out that they're Eden Zomim, right? They're false witnesses. So say, what's the halacha with Eidim Zomin? There's a reciprocal punishment. You do to the Eidim Zomin that which they wanted to do to the defendant. So in this case, they wanted to put Ruvain to death. They're going to be put to death. I could have made the argument. The truth is, I understand that you're going to put witnesses 1 and 2 to death. Why? Because they were going to be the ones who are responsible for giving testimony. Witness number 3, however, is what? Is irrelevant. Is really extra irrelevant, meaning he actually has no impact on this process. If those witnesses were going to be successful in putting Ruvain to death, it has nothing to do with witness number 3. It was witness number 1 and 2. So I might have thought that witness number 3 should really not be included with any punishments that 1 and 2 are going to get. Kamash Malan, Rabbi Akiva says no. That's what the Torah is coming to tell you. Al pi shnayim edim o shlosha edim. That when you are a testimonial unit, whether you are 2 or 22, if you come as a testimonial unit, then you are looked at as one cohesive entity, and therefore, again, you are all given the same status. So in the event that those witnesses are going to be punished, the entire group is punished as well. Go back to the Gemara. So again, this time Rabbi Kiva Omer, Lo Bashlishi, the mention in the pasuk of Shlishi of Apish Shlosha Eidim, El Lahachmir Alav, to be machmir on the 3rd witness, La'asos Dino Kiyotse Ba'elu. Ultimately, again, to make his the same as the other 2. So Rabbi Kiva says is an incredible musar. Im came Anash HaKasav Es HaNitpa LaOvre Avera Ka'ovre Avera. Therefore, what do you see from here? That the Ribono Shel Olam holds a person who is Nitpa LaOvre Avera. Someone who goes ahead and literally, Nitpa means what? Meklashon of Tafel. Somebody who secondarily attaches himself to Ovre Avera, to the sinners. Right? Even someone who's not this 3rd guy, he's not the ringleader. The 3rd guy ultimately, again, is not the person in the front and center. He just happens to tag along. He has some time on his hands. If he sees 2 other guys going to do an Avera, let me chap a Ryan, I'll get in on this also. So we'll say, Rabbi Kiva says, you see from here that if someone who is nitbala over Avera, someone ultimately, again, who attaches himself to those who are committing an Avera, the Rebbe Shalom treats him over Avera. He's no different than the primary movers in the over Avera group. So the Gemara says, Al achas kama v'kama she'shalim schar es hanitba la'ose mitzvah ke'ose mitzvah. We'll say, we have a general principle that the midah tov, the good attribute, or I should say, the good of HaKadosh Baruch Hu always overshadows the punishments of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Rebbe Shalom holds that a nitba la'ovre avera, that someone who attaches himself to those who are committing an avera, is treated like the ovre avera themselves. Then all the more so, I'll say, when a person joins a group who's doing a mitzvah, even if he's not the primary person in the group, but he attaches himself to the group, all the more so HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him reward for that attachment as well. Look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, the kaimalon mida tova meruba mimidas paranos. Because again, it says over here that we see in the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world, the mida tova, the attribute of good, is always eclipses and always overshadows, is more amplified than the midas paranos, than any type of media attribute of punishment. Hilchach kal v'chomer. We'll say it's an incredible yisod. If the Rebbe Shalom is going to hold the shlosha, the 3rd, 8, accountable, even though he's only nitbal, he's tafel, he's secondary to what's happening over here. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you're joining over Avera, then again you are part of that chevra. Then all the more so will say, if I join if I join Shomrei Mitzvos, right? If I join the proper peer groups, if I attach myself to the proper people who are doing the right things, even if I'm not the primary mover and shaker in that group, but I just attach myself to those people, there's schar for that as well. We'll say, what the Kiva is teaching us is an incredible yisod, that so much of who and what we are is based on who we attach ourselves to. We'll say it's an incredible. This goes back to the general yisod of oil rasha, oil shcheno. This idea being sometimes we fool ourselves in thinking that our peer attachments do not necessarily have an impact on who and what we are. You see this all the time, that a person says, I know that Ruvain, I know that guy, that Plony, he's not such a good influence on me. I know he's not good, but it's okay, I'm strong. I'm not going to allow it to influence me. We'll say it's not true. we're influenced by everyone and anyone we come in contact to. And therefore, what the Rebbe Shalom says is that our successes, or Chas v'Shalom, our failures in life, are very much rooted in those who we choose to root ourselves to, and those who we choose to attach ourselves to. Or do we attach ourselves to nitba, right? The over mitzvah, or the shomer mitzvah, or the over avera? And those peer associations sometimes make all the difference in life in terms of who we become. Good. So the Gemara goes weiter. So we'll say, so now, this is going to be a little bit of a prolonged statement. So now we have the Gemara suggesting, remember, just so we frame over, we're trying to figure out what's the machlokes Rabbanan and Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says you need 3 people for a basin of Motzi Shemra. Rabbanan, you need 23. What's the machlokes? Ravina is suggesting that the machlokes between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Meir is the machlokes Rabbi Yossi and Rebbe in accordance with Rabbi Akiva. Okay, what did Rabbi Akiva say? Rabbi Akiva told us that ultimately the third witness who shows up is going to be chayiv the same fate as the 2, even though he's only a tafel, he's only secondary. Now watch this. Umashnaim nimtza echanem karav apostle edusan betela. So say just like if you have 2 witnesses who show up, and one of them is a karav apostle, so the whole edus is batal. Af shlosha nimtza echanem karav apostle edusan betela. So we'll say this is just Rabbi Akiva's argument in its logical extension. If the Torah is coming to teach me that Pishnayim Edim Oshloshe means that a testimonial unit is treated as one cohesive unit. So the same way that if 2 witnesses show up, one of them is pasul, there's no edus. So too, if 3 witnesses show up and one of them is pasul, there's also what? There's also no edus. Even though you could tell that what? But if one of them is pasul, you still have 2 who are kosher. No, they're looked at as a group, and therefore again. Says how do I know that this even applies to a group of 100 witnesses? 100 witnesses show up, we'll say. It turns out that one of them is a karav or apostle. How do I know that goes ahead and negates the testimonial effectiveness of the entire group, even though they have 99 kosher edim? But if one of them is going to be apostle, ultimately, again, the entire group is apostle. Talmud Lomar Edim, because the pasuk says Api Shnayim Edim O Shlosha Edim. The idea being that what? That the group is looked at as one cohesive testimonial unit, and therefore, as soon as one becomes puzzle, the entire group becomes puzzle. So we'll say, so this is the statement of Rabbi Akiva. We're going to call this in Maseches Makos Eidush Shebatla Mitzasa Batla Kula. That ultimately, again, when any part of the testimonial unit becomes batal, the entire unit becomes batal. Even if what? Even if there's only one person who's puzzle, and you have many other kasher edim, once one part of the edus is puzzle, the entire edus is done. That's Shitas Rabbi Akiva. Good. Now, what's the machlokes? Here's the machlokes. This is where it gets very interesting. I'm Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi says, when is this true? Rabbi Akiva. When is Rabbi Akiva's statement true? That Eidos Shebatla Mikasa Batla Kula. When is it true that if one of the witnesses becomes batal, the entire testimonial unit is batal, even if there are many more than 2 remaining kasher edim? When do we say that? We say that when it comes to capital cases. But also when it comes to financial cases, money cases, so we say no, as long as there are 2 or more remaining kasher edim, we'll take away the invalid witnesses, but the remaining kasher edim could still serve proper eidos on the monetary case. Take a look at Rashi. So let's listen to this. Rabbi Yossi says that when do we say that if part of the testimonial unit is no good, then we throw out the entire testimonial unit? That's by capital cases. Why? Because Rabbi Yossi says, by capital cases, to be honest, we are always looking for an excuse to spare the individual. We're looking for any out not to have to administer a death penalty. Therefore, again, we'll say that if one part of the testimonial unit becomes batal, the entire testimonial unit is batal. But by dinei mamanis, by financial law, as long as you have 2 or more remaining edim, then what? That is going to be enough. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Omer, so we'll say that's Shitas Rabbi Yossi. Shitas Rabbi Yossi. So the Gemara says, however, Rabbi says, Echad dinei mamanis ve'echad dinei nefashos. It's not true, Bosai. Rebbe says both by dinei mamanis and by dinei nefashos, once one witness is batal, then what, Bosai? The entire testimonial unit is batal. So herein lies the the fundamentals. Here we have Shitas Rabbi Akiva, that when one part of the testimonial unit is batal, someone is invalid, it invalidates the whole group. Machlokas Rabbi Yossi and Rebbe went to apply the position of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yossi saying only in Dinei Nefashos, not in Dinei Mamanis. Rebbe is saying both in Dinei Mamanis as well as Dinei Nefashos. Both take a look at Rashi just a moment. Actually, right across. Rebbe Omer Echad Dinei Mamanis, Echad Dinei Nefashos. Shavin Bekach De'idusan Betela. Rebbe will say that Rabbi Akiva's shita applies in all cases. As soon as one witness of the testimonial unit is batal, the entire testimonial unit is done. So we'll say, watch this. Ve'imosai. But Amos, take a look at Rashi. Ve'imosai. But Dinei Nefashos, I do some betela. But when do we say then in Dinei Nefashos? Ultimately, again, if one witness becomes invalid, the entire testimonial unit is batal. Watch this. Bizman shehisru bahen. We'll say this is only true. Now watch this. So now here's let's make shalom. Let's go with what everybody agrees with. What does everybody agree with? That if you have a capital case, and let's say you have 3 witnesses, and it turns out that one of them is a Karov or Apostle, everyone agrees that what? Once one is Apostle, the entire group is Apostle, right? Both Rabbi Yossi and Rebbe agree with that. The Machlokas Rabbi Yossi and Rebbe is only a case of Dinei Mamanis. But in Dinei Nefashos, still agree, once one witness is Apostle, the whole group is Apostle. But says Rebbe something amazing. Ve'imosai. When is it true that in Dinei Nefashos, if one witness is Apostle, the whole group is Apostle? Bizman shehisru bahen. I will say it has to be that the third witness served some type of active role. Specifically what? Specifically, he was part of the hasra. He helped to give the warning. Look at Rashi just a moment. Bizman shehisru bahen. Hakaro b'hapostle ba'ovri avera shegilu daitam she'af hein na'asim edim. See, Rabbi says, Rabbi, when do we say that if the third one becomes invalid, it invalidates the whole group? That's only if they somehow actively participated in the eidos. How do you actively participate in the eidos? That this third aid was part of the hasra. Part of the hasra, he was part of giving the warning to the perpetrator, because by participating in giving the warning to the perpetrator, then what? Shegilu daitam sha'af heim na'asim edim. He's making a statement that I'm also an aid. If the third witness never said anything, so if he never said anything, then what's his testimonial role? The answer is nothing. Nothing. In respect, really, he's totally ineffective and or I should say, ineffective and unimpactful. If that's a word. But Lemais again, so Rebbe's qualifying this. Ve'imosai, when do we say that by Dinei Nefashos, if the third witness is found to be a Karov Apostle and validates the whole group, shehisru bahen, that's only if the third witness took an active role in the eidos, i.e. participated in the Asra. But if the third witness never did anything, in other words, he just stood there. The other 2 guys giving the Hasra, the third witness is just standing there not doing anything, then Amud Beis, Ma Yahasra. So then before we finish that line, then Lamaisa, he's totally irrelevant. If you just stand on the sidelines and do absolutely nothing, you are irrelevant. So if an aide just sits, not just true in aidos, it's true in life, just sit on the sidelines and smile, look around and don't do anything. So then what are you doing in this world? So the aide who sits there on the sidelines and he doesn't participate, he's not part of that. So that's not an aide. It's a bump on the log. He's just sitting there, just taking up space. But he's not part of the testimonial unit. Therefore, the Maisa, again, if it turns out that's what? If it turns out that he is a Karov or a Apostle, so the Maisa at the end of the day, go ahead and negatively impact the Eidos. So the Gemara says, and that has to be true. Why? Testament base. Because I will say otherwise, what ends up happening? If you ever have a case of 2 brothers and someone else, let's say Reuven and Shimon who are brothers, witness a murder with another guy. We'll call him, right? So Reuven, Shimon, and Avram are brothers, and Avram is there. So what happens? We'll say, if you have that case and you assume that somebody is part of a testimonial unit, even if they do absolutely nothing, So we'll say if you have two brothers and another person who witness a murder, so they will not be able to put the perpetrator to death. Why? Because then you're telling me that the presence simply of two brothers, by definition, is a source of invalidation of the testimonial unit. Rebbe says that can't be, because then I will say it'd be very hard to go ahead and get testimony together, because the Maisa is quite possible that in many cases you have someone who is a puzzle or a karov who is present at the time of the event. Rabbi, you see that what makes you part of a testimonial unit is not simply being present, but rather participation. Therefore, I will say Rabbi's coming along and reframing Rabbi Akiva's shita and saying even Rabbi Akiva, who says that the presence of a karav or a puzzle invalidates the testimonial unit, is only when the karav or a puzzle has taken an active role in the eidos. But if he has not taken an active role in the eidos, then the mice again he does not invalidate. So the Gemara says the following. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. So we'll say, how does this relate back to our Mishnah? So how does this relate back to Motzi Shemra and the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan? Watch this. So it says Rashi, so we'll say, so the Gemara is suggesting over here that this is the same machlokas of Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan. That in this case over here, you had three witnesses that the woman committed adultery. One of them turns out to be a karav or a puzzle. But we'll say in this case, what happens? So three witnesses saw that the woman committed adultery. Two of them gave hasra. The third, who let's say was the karav apostle, did not say anything. He didn't participate in the hasra. Rabbi Meir savar Rabbi Yossi, so what's Rabbi Meir holds like Rabbi Yossi? Presence of the apostle ultimately goes ahead and invalidates the testimonial unit. Therefore, I will say what? There's no din misa here. There's only going to be a din of mammon, of a monetary claim, and therefore you only need a basin of what? A basin of three. On the other hand, the Rabbanan, on the other hand, hold like Rebbe, that I will say in a case where the third witness did not participate, that when in the case where the third witness did not participate, his presence does not invalidate the testimonial unit, in which case you have two Eidim whose sar committed adultery, in which case it is a capital case, in which case you require a beis din ultimately of 23. So remember, this is really riveting, because the truth is, it's exciting, because in the quest of trying to figure out what the machlokes in the Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan is, we're bringing up all of these different sugyas, all these different ideas. But really, we have one simple focus, which is to try to figure out what the machlokes in the Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan is. Another possibility is Most of the other possibility is, same case, man goes ahead and brings forward a claim that his wife wasn't the basula, motzi shemra, and then what happens? Witnesses come forward. But it turns out that there are two different groups of witnesses. There was one group of witnesses who saw her commit adultery. Let me see differently. There's one group of witnesses who gave her hasra, and a second group ultimately again who witnessed the actual adultery. So we'll say, under normal circumstances, it's the same set of witnesses. The shaila over here is, what if you have two sets of witnesses? Hasra witnesses and actual, we'll call Avera witnesses. So the Gemara says, the kamif give a plukted Rabbi Yossi v'Rabbanan. And the machlokes of Meir and the Rabbanan is the machlokes Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan. How so? So the Gemara says, this nan, Rabbi Yossi omer the olam eno nerag, ad shupi shnei edav masrin bo shnei mar, api shnayim eitim. Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that it has to be the same witnesses who give the asra and to witness the act, whereas the Rabbanan hold no, you could even have two different sets of witnesses. So the Gemara is suggesting that this is the machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan as well by our Mishnah, that we're dealing with the case of two different sets of witnesses, in which case Rabbi Meir holds like that because there's two sets of witnesses, therefore you can't administer a death penalty. Because you can't administer a death penalty, you only have a monetary case. Because you only have a monetary case, therefore what? You only have a beis din of three. Whereas the Rabbanan will hold that Lamais, again, even with two sets of witnesses, you can still try a capital case. Therefore, you need a beis din ultimately of 23. Fine. We'll say another example. Now, this is also very interesting. Kigon dis kachosh bebedigos below is kachosh bechakiros. We'll say we're going to get into this later on. There are two different lines of questioning that we give to Eidim when they come to give testimony in beis din. There's what we call chakiros, and bedikos, or bedikos and chakiros. Look at Rashi in just a moment. It's the second short line in Rashi. Bedikos, ze omer kelev shel boel shchorim, ze omer levan. So we'll say bedikos are kind of like secondary, really non-essential questions that are just there as another level of what we'll call, testimonial corroboration. But they're not really important. They're not central to the core of the Eidos. So, for example, Beis Din would often ask the Eidim, what was the perpetrator wearing? They will say, does it matter what the perpetrator was wearing? The answer is no. That's not really core to the actual Eidos itself, but they would ask. That's Bedikos. Chakiros, I will say, look at the next Rashi, Chakiros, Eizehu yom, Eize yom be'eze shah, ukiyotze bahem, she'idim boim ayidim dihazama. I will say, Chakiros, on the other hand, is the essential information. What day did this event occur? What time did this event occur? I will say, so date and times are a very crucial piece of information. Why? Because that sets the Eidim up for Hazama. Remember, again, becoming Eidim Zum means that second set of witnesses come along and say, Imanu Hayisem, you were with us on that date, you were with us at that time, so therefore it's impossible that you went ahead and you saw this event. So both say that's Chakiros. Chakiros, we ask them date and time. Rashi goes on, he says, Rabbi Meir Savar, Hachoshes B'diko Shma Achosha, V'lo Mikdala. So we'll say, I'm sorry, before we go on that, Rashi, so what's the case over here? Witnesses show up and they claim that they saw the woman commit adultery. But I will say what happens as the witnesses are giving their testimony, they contradict each other in the bedikos, but not in the chakiros. So they contradict each other, I will say, in what we call the secondary information, but not the primary information. So what's the impact upon witnesses when they're contradicting each other on the second tier questions? Bedikos, but in the primary information, they're perfectly aligned. So the Gemara says, "V'kamiflagi v'pluta de ben zakai v'rabbanon." And this machlokes Rabosai is the machlokes between zakai and rabbanon. Watch this. Disnan ma'aseh ubadak ben zakai be'uktzei te'enim. There was once an episode of where witnesses were in Beis Din, and Ben Zakkai. I will say Ben Zakkai is Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakkai. He was called Ben Zakkai in his youth, right? So this once happened. The case came up, and Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakkai literally interrogated the witnesses by asking them about the thickness of the stem of the dates. Now, what is going to say? So first, I'll go back to Rashi for just a moment. So Rashi's in that Rashi Chakiros. So in the middle of that Rashi, Rabbi Meir Savar Hachoshas Bediko Shma Hachosha below Mikdal. So we'll say Rabbi Meir will hold that even if witnesses contradict each other in Bediko, secondary questioning, that's enough to refute the Eidos, and we will therefore not try this as a capital case. Because it's not a capital case, it's only a monetary case. Because only a monetary case, you only need what? How many witnesses? Excuse me. How many dayanim? 3 to try din of din ominous. He says, "Below Mikdala, v'Rabbanan Savri, Kavan de bechakiranim to mechuvanim, hachoshet de bedikos lav hachoshehi, to lo ramusad adatay lumivda kuliyah." We'll say, on the other hand, that as long as witnesses align themselves with the chakiros, even if they have different answers with the bedikos, nevertheless, the testimony will stand and the idus will be good. So you both say, this is interesting. Essentially, what the fundamental machlokes is how much human error do you allow for in the realm of eidos? How much which is a really fundamental issue. Rabbi Meir says no human error. No, meaning if you don't have your information down pat, we're not accepting your eidos. And even if it's just regarding secondary information, if you are not on the same page, we are going to disqualify your eidos. On the other hand, the Rabbanan hold this element of human error. And as long as your core facts are aligned, even if you contradict each other a little bit in some of the secondary facts, we're not going to worry about that. So the Gemara brings Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakkai as an example. But in this case over here, witnesses came along and witnesses said, we saw a particular event, whatever the event was, we saw it while standing under the fig tree. And Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakkai said, what was the thickness of the stems? So we'll say the idea is Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakkai was trying to ascertain a location and B, timing, right? Depending on the time of the agricultural season, also determine what the stems look like. So you see that Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakkai was makbid even on secondary details like bedikos. So therefore, both sides, the case over here is a case of where the Eidim contradict each other by the bedikos, but not by the chakiros. The Rabbanan will say, contradiction by the Bedikos is okay. As long as your Chakiros are in order, we're going to try this as a capital case, therefore based on 23. Rabbi Meir is saying, no, if they contradict each other by the Bedikos, you're out. You're out. It's no longer a capital case. We can still try it as a monetary case, therefore only need a basin of 3. Good. I'm Rav Yosef. So we'll say the Gemara switches gears a little bit. So again, all these different interpretations of the Machlokes, Rabbi Meir and the Rabbana. I'm Rav Yosef. Hevi habal idim shazinsa. The Avi Av Edim V'Hezimum Evi Abal. We'll say, watch this. So let's say, husband, my wife wasn't the Basula. So what happens? He brings witnesses that the wife committed adultery. Okay? Father of the bride, right? Father of the wife. Shver. He brings witnesses, and his witnesses make the husband's witnesses into Edim Zomer. So in other words, the father, so let's say husband brings witnesses 1 and 2. Say that the woman committed adultery. Father of the wife brings his witnesses, we'll call them 3 and 4, and 3 and 4 say to 1 and 2, listen, committed adultery, didn't commit adultery. One thing I do know is what you're testifying about, you could not have seen. Why could you not have seen that? Because you were with us at that particular time, particular date. So we'll say, so what's the halacha? So Eidei Habal Neheragin. So we'll say, so remember again, the witnesses that the husband brought, witnesses 1 and 2, are executed. We'll say, why are they executed? Because remember again, that's Hazama. Hazama means that if you're found out to be lying, if your witness is found to be lying, you are given the same punishment that you sought to give to the person you are testifying about. By testifying that this woman committed adultery, she would have been subject to a death penalty. Therefore, when these witnesses are found out to be lying, ultimately, again, they go ahead and they're executed. I will say now, technically speaking, the ramifications of their testimony would have been felt in 2 ways. Number 1, they would have put her to death. Number 2, they're depriving her of a ksuva. What the Gemara is teaching us is a principle that we know very well, which is kimle midrabamine. That whenever one act results in 2 simultaneous liabilities, you only get the more severe punishment. So therefore, in this case, where their actions of false testimony would have caused a loss of life and a loss of money, we put them to death, but they're not on the hook for any kind of money. Watch this. We'll say, here's where it gets interesting. Chazar vehevi habal edim ve'zimum le'edi ha'av. We'll say, watch this. So just say follow this story over here. You think your family is dysfunctional, right? So watch this. So husband comes along. Husband says, right to his wife, you committed adultery. Witnesses 1 and 2 could attest to that. Father of the wife brings now 2 more witnesses, 3 and 4. 3 and 4 say to 1 and 2, you're liars. You were with us at the time that you are testifying that you committed adultery. You cannot have seen that. Then what happens? Husband brings 5 and 6. 5 and 6 say to 3 and 4, you're lying because you cannot have been where you said you were at that time because you were with us. So now 5 and 6 just made 3 and 4 into Edim Zomin. Leads 1 and 2 to be proper Edim, kosher Edim. So we'll say, so watch this. Now the shaila is, what's the liability of 3 and 4? So it says the Gemara, Chazer vehevi abal Edim, vezimu le'edi ha'av, edi ha'av ne'eragin u'mishalmen. So we'll say the witnesses of the father, right, meaning what we call 3 and 4, are both put to death. And what? They have to pay money. We'll say they're put to death. Why? Because they were going to put 1 and 2 to death, right? Through their testimony, making 1 and 2 Eidim Zomin, they were going to put 1 and 2 to death. So therefore, 3 and 4 are put to death. Umishalmin mammon. But they also have to pay money. Why? Mammon lezeh. Because they both say, remember, by 3 and 4 coming and making 1 and 2 Eidim Zomin, they were going to put 1 and 2 to death. And they both say, what's the mammon piece? They were going to make the husband liable to pay the 100 shekel for the defamation of the wife to the father of the bride. So therefore, I will say they were going to be gorei mamon lezeh. So they were going to obligate the husband in the monetary payment, and they were going to be responsible for putting 1 and 2 to death. Remember, you only say kimli midrabamine when it's 2 liabilities to the same person or same party. When it's 2 liabilities to 2 different people, there's no killing midrabamine. Therefore, I will say 3 and 4 are going to be put to death because they tried to put 1 and 2 to death, and they're going to have. But before they put to death, their card, right? Before they put them to death, Lemaisa again, they're going to have to pay a reciprocal penalty to the husband because they were going to be goring the husband to pay the 100 shekel to the father of the bride. Mama lazeh und the fashal lazeh. Bam Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef. So just go a little bit weiter. Bam Rav Yosef. Ploni Ravo La'anso. So we'll say now we're going to get into a different kind of case. So we'll say in this case over here, so we're going to get into dealing with when a person makes a claim about the fact that someone else committed an Avera, but the individual himself was participated in the Avera. So in this case over here, Ploni Ravo La'onso. So we'll say, let's say again, Ruvain says that Shimon violated me. Ruvain claims that he was violated by Shimon. So I'll say, so what happens? But it was against my will. Ruvain says, Shimon violated me against my will. So who the Echad mitzdarf in the Hargo? So we'll say, so Ruvain, even though Ruvain is a party to the act, but because it was done against his will, so again, he's one of the witnesses. So if he's one other witness, Ruvain and another witness could combine, ultimately again, to testify against Shimon. So we'll say, on the other hand, we'll say, what happens if Ruvain says, I participated in the act willingly, right? I had relations with Shimon, but again, I participated willingly in that act. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Rashu. In that case, if Ruvain is saying, I willingly participated in the act, then what? Then Ruvain is a Rasha. If Ruvain is a Rasha, that Torah Amra Atashes Rasha. Then we'll say, Atashes Rasha Eid. The Torah says, you shall not go ahead and combine with a Rasha to form a testimonial unit. So I'll say, ultimately, again, so if he's saying over there, now what can happen in that case? In that case, in order to make Shimon Chayiv for the act, you'll need two independent witnesses. Since Ruvain is saying, I willingly participated in the act, he's a Rasha, and therefore cannot go ahead and be an aid. Rava says no. Adam karov li'atzla atzmo. So we'll say, Rava says that literally a person is karov to himself. Now what does this mean? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, Adam, Rava Amar, in Adam nifsal le'ilas ba'adas piv, Adam karov etzla atzmo. Hilchach, in Adam yachal lasum atzmo Rasha. We'll say, listen to this. Rava says, a person is not believed to give self-incriminating testimony. Why, Rabbi saying? Because a person, remember again, the halacha is, as we've seen, that a karov is pasal le'ilah. Someone who's related to you is not believed to give testimony. Rabbi saying, no one is related to you more than who? Than yourself. Therefore, Adam karov li'atzmo, I'm related to myself. Therefore, any testimony I give vis-a-vis myself, by definition, is invalid, and therefore, ein adam nesim atzmo rasha. Therefore, ultimately, again, a person cannot make himself into a Rasha. A person cannot give self-incrimination. So again, it's these two principles that are tied together. Adam karov li'atzmo, a person is quote-unquote related to himself. Therefore, he's not believed to give self-incriminating testimony about himself. Therefore, in Adam mesim atzmo Rasha. Finish Rashi. So we'll say, what do we do? Therefore, when Ruvain says that Shimon had relations with me, we kind of splice, and he said, but it was willing. It was not willing. It was consensual. Therefore, again, we kind of splice his words. We'll say we do not believe the part that says it was consensual because that's ein adam mesim atzmo rasha. But we will believe that what? That Shimon had relations with him. So as such, again, we'll accept that part of the testimony that Shimon had relations with him, and therefore, again, he can go ahead and combine with someone else, ultimately, to form proper eidos against Shimon. So we'll stop over here for today. We're going to pick up with this topic tomorrow about how one could go ahead and give testimony about himself, and even if we say ein adam mesim atzmo rasha, how sometimes palginam dibure, we could splice a person's statement, take part of it, and leave part. I'm also here tomorrow.